romances are great and all, but why? Why are side characters disappearing for romance books like someone snapped their fingers Thanos style? When did we collectively decide that a universe should revolve entirely around two people who basically never go to work? Welcome back to Rationally Insane. I'm Rachel D. Oak, and today we're talking about something near and dear to my Wattpad rotted brain: the disappearance of the side character, the chaotic besties, the deadpan siblings, the gremlin-coded friends who used to give stories life, and now feel like cardboard cutouts waiting for their book too. As usual, this will be semi-intellectual and 100% madness academic analysis. And once again, I'm not coming for authors. I'm coming for the trends TM, the market TM, and the pressure TM. Because be honest, how many times have you read a romance book and thought, okay, but can I get a spin-off about the best friend who dropped that one sarcastic line and instantly became the love of my life? But first things first, we need to discuss the slow and tragic extension of the side character. Side characters used to thrive. You could not open a fanfiction, an early Wattpad book, and not see a sarcastic little side character with absolutely insane one-liners. Fandom culture genuinely rewarded the ensemble casts. Every single side character had a reason to be there, even if that reason was purely comedic relief. If your main character was going through some of the most traumatic, painful periods in their lives, you knew for a fact that there was some random guy just waiting on the sidelines, ready to pop up and make us all laugh for a second between our tears. And the reason for this, I believe, is because there were very dialogue-driven worlds, so there was a lot more space for banter crews. When you look at traditional publishing, you have so many rules about the way you have to write, the way you have to express the universe. There's an expectation that you won't have as much dialogue as you would have, say, in a Wattpad fanfic. And I believe that with the rise of like Pad and AO3 becoming more popular and started being seen instead of just a side thing that you did out of joy as a gateway into traditional publishing, that meant that there were more rules put in place for authors. And so authors felt that need to stop writing so much dialogue. So those characters that we used to love, those like little chaotic side characters that would always steal the spotlight, are slowly going extinct in modern romance. But another point that really breaks my heart here is that those side characters were quite often queer-coded, neurodivergent coded. They were everywhere in those early fics. And while I am so happy that now queer-coded, neurodivergent coded characters are being seen as the main stage, right? You have an ADHD female main character, a bipolar male main character, male-on-male romance hitting the shelves, and non-binary people just being the protagonists. I still miss the side characters that were also their own people, that they had their own unique traits. They served very much as an emotional pressure valve for angst-heavy plots. And while some people might say, oh, the reason they were neurodivergent or not heteronormative, etc., was because they had to fill a quota. I disagree. I genuinely don't think that in fanfiction that was the case, because fanfiction genuinely has no rules. You write it because it makes you happy, and the benefit is we all get to sit back and also enjoy these things. And the reason why side characters were so important and why I love them so much is because they helped us fall in love with the universe, not just the couples. They made the entire story so much more vibrant and so much more lively, because they were a reflection of real life. In real life, two people don't exist in a vacuum. Not everything generates around them. There's a billion people that come in and out of our lives that don't have a particular impact on us. And fanfiction was never afraid to include all of these side stories, even knowing that they were never going to get much more development. And why the side character is vanishing now is because contemporary romance really hyper focuses on the couple. Call it romance tunnel vision. And there's a lot of reasons behind this, but we can't deny that there's definitely a market pressure to keep books shorter and quicker and tighter. There's a lot of really fast publishing schedules. Publishers want books to come out fast. If there is a trending genre or a trending book, you want as many books within that genre to come out and steal that trend and steal the spotlight. But that means that as an author, you have a lot less time for deep world building, hence a lot less side characters. And obviously, I don't work in traditional publishing, so I can't be super sure about this, but I I do feel like there's an assumption that readers only care about the MMC or the FMC. So if you're up against a really tight schedule and you just need a book to come out as soon as possible, well, the easiest thing to cut down on is a side character that, quote unquote, does not add to the plot. And as an author, the justification for taking these characters out or flattening them is, oh, they're like future protagonists, so let's just add a couple of details in, make people like the quirky best friend just enough, just find them interesting enough, just add enough crumbs so that people get invested enough to want a book too, and then I can create a spin-off off of this side character, which unfortunately means that the side character does not get the layer and development that it deserves. Nothing takes me out faster than a side character whose 2 lines are clearly just a teaser for book 2. And with this pressure to make books fit into a certain mold to make them the most commercial they can possibly be, the protagonists are also optimized for relatability. They have to fit into a mold to make them easier to create and easier for readers to relate to and become emotionally invested in. So the side characters become the only place where authors can unleash their personality. But when you take that away, then what are you left with? You are left with cardboard cutout books, and the exact reason why so many people make hate videos on Book Talk Books and popular viral books. Do I think these people are correct in making these videos? No, I don't. I've touched on this many a times in this podcast and on my YouTube channel. So let's move on why side characters often feel more real than the leads, and really the psychology of why I'm so obsessed with a side character. The main reason is we don't see their POV. Just take a step back and think, most romance books nowadays are dual POVs, so you always get to insert yourself in the mind of the character. You get to fully see why the MMC or the FMC does the things that she does and what are their reasonings and what are their motivation. But with a side character, you don't get that, so they feel more mysterious and they feel a lot more complex when they are written properly, of course. They get the best jokes and the best lines and the best scenes if you really think about it, because they are not carrying the plot. They're a lot freer. They can be messy and they can break the mold because the author does not have to come back later and justify every single detail that happens to them. They're just allowed to be. They're safe but narratively chaotic because they don't have to follow any singular thread. Of course, they have to have some distinctive traits that the author needs to follow. They can't have red hair in chapter 1 and black hair in chapter 2. They can't be super sarcastic and funny and then suddenly becomes deadpan and emotionless. That being said, as someone who is an author, I just don't overthink the side character nearly as much. I let them say random stuff. They can say they like caramel lattes. I don't have to worry, and I don't have to write that down in my notes in case in a few chapters or in a few books I need to reference their coffee preferences again, which is unlike what I would have to do for a protagonist. Because in a protagonist, you're being so overly critical, you want to make sure that you don't take people out of the book. You never want people to be reading your book questioning, oh my god, this doesn't make any sense, what a plot hole, or like, what an inconsistency. And going back into that relatability factor, main characters are often written to be universal. You kind of do want your readers to self-insert a little bit to find some aspects of their personality relatable in order for them to connect to the book. Whereas a side character is written to be actual people. They get to change their minds. They get to do whatever the heck they want. And another thing that we probably don't want to admit is that female main characters, especially in romance, often face backlash. You know for a fact that if you make her too much like other girls, or not like other girls, you're going to get backlash. The reviews are going to hate you, so an author needs to sand down their edges. It needs to always be aware of what they're writing. But side characters aren't under their scrutiny. They get to exist. Just think back to the last time you read a book review or wrote a book review and had hate to say about a side character. Probably never. If anything, you praise the side character because they were funny. As a reader, we bond with characters who feel unfiltered, not market ready. I recently made a YouTube video reading 1-star reviews of my favorite books. In this case, it was The Fucking Wrong Number. And a lot of the complaints that I came across when I was looking at reviews of the book was, was, what's the point of the dad character? And this is something that I've seen in a lot of books that have gone so viral, that received tons and tons of reviews, clearly for people who were not the intended market for the book. And in this case, it pissed me off so bad to constantly have to read reviews of people being like, what was the point of the dad? Why was the dad there? Like, hello, he is the point. He added conflict and tension and realism to the story. This is not a coloring book. And life has side characters. Fiction should too. Not every character exists to be a love interest. Some exist to annoy you, to challenge you, to stand awkwardly in the way while you're cooking. You know, like real humans. I think that's why fanfiction will always outperform traditional romance in side characters. Because in fanfic there is so much low pressure, authors do get to be weird. That ensemble cast energy is expected. As someone who absolutely loved band fanfiction, even when the fics were just about two people, so like the drummer of a band and this random IN, the other band members still showed up. And they carried entire arcs. They made more stories appear on the sidelines. And it was so fun. Also, in fanfiction, as I mentioned, dialogue is expected, banter is expected, so that means more room for friend groups. Stories aren't optimized to be sellable. They're optimized for the vibes, the fun. Whereas in traditional romance, and even some indie romance, you have a lot of timelines. And you also have stupid things like word count that you need to be mindful of. Your protagonists need to be market tested. And series planning does restrict who gets to have space. There's a lot of pressure where the side character can't overshadow the main couple. But the irony is that the side characters are the reason many readers even fall in love with universes, yet they're disappearing for the sake of efficiency. So can we bring this back? Because for me, stories feel a lot bigger when the world feels populated. When life is happening around the couple, not just for the couple and about the couple. And romance needs more of that. And hey, by the way, not every character needs a spin-off. Like, I absolutely love hockey romance, okay? But I've noticed this massive trend where side characters are solely introduced in order to be given their own book later on. Cough cough, the Windy City series. Or they're only introduced to be something you hate on. They need to be the mean girl or the villain guy. Can we let side characters be weird again, please? Let stories have B plots and C plots and D plots. Let best friends have arcs without needing a book 2, 3, or 4. Remember when you'd read a fic and the friend group was so absolutely insane you felt like you were in the group chat with them? Yeah, I miss that. Please comment your favorite side character of all time. I want to build a shrine to them. And here's what nobody else will say. Side characters should be allowed to be sluts. I said what I said. I understand that you're writing romance smut. But if your main characters are constantly going at it, why can't the side character get some too? Stop writing best friends who have no job, no personality, and only call to say, go get him, babe. And maybe, just maybe, if your side character is turning out to be more interesting than your main character, maybe they should have been the main character. Listen, side characters are the backbone of a story. They're the breath and the oxygen. Bring back the found family and the roommates who steal the scene. Books should reflect life, and life is not just two lovers alone in a room. Anyway, I'll see you next week. I'll be in mourning for all the side characters we lost in 2020 something, and all the cardboard ones that came to replace them. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, rate, or review the podcast in whatever platform you're listening on. It genuinely helps push it to more readers who are missing side characters as much as I, and hopefully you, are.